You said Steve Jobs hurt product management.
I am an Apple fanboy. One of the most brilliant product minds. That said, he was somebody that did not care what other people thought. And I found, at least on the B2B side, the more impactful way of building. Your goal is to listen to the problems people have, to the obstacles in their way, to what's at stake, and then build something that helps them get to the other side.
Dmitry, welcome to Tech Scenes.
Hey, how you doing? Excited to talk.
I'm doing well. Let's do this. So, for people that don't know, tell us about Arbor.
So, Arbor is a AI content platform, and we are actually on the authentic content at scale side of things. So what we do is we use AI to help people transform long video into all the different assets that they need to communicate at scale. So in a world where you can create your avatars and you can have synthetic voice, we actually want to use AI to allow humans to share their authentic stories in a more direct way. And we built this because we saw a massive rise in how businesses have been using their leadership to spread their insights, to build that top of funnel. And we wanted to make it much easier to take a conversation like this and turn it into video clips, into newsletters, blogs, emails, etc. But to do it with a business perspective in mind. So a system that understands goals, audiences, understands who's speaking, understands their speaking patterns, etc., and builds content with all that in mind.
So it's really, there's a lot of things out there, and I kind of started with like these influencers needing technology and doing that type of stuff. But as marketing has changed, it's really going, corporate and really enterprise level, right? And I don't think there's, from my understanding, before you and I started connecting, I don't think I ever saw anything really enterprise level.
Yeah, there has, and it makes sense. We've seen the social mediaification of business communication happening over the last few years. It really started with a reduction in quality. So in a world where everyone could have access to these incredible 4K cameras, it actually became okay to film things that are less polished and to not put a tremendous amount of production into it. And I think it happened because people wanted something that was authentic and real. And as businesses started to adopt it, primarily led by what we're seeing on LinkedIn, whether it was photos or short videos, what they started to see is it was significantly more effective to do that than it was to have a big production budget and to have a film crew out there. And kind of leading into that, authenticity has been the winner of trust, right? That's how you build it, not to have a huge agency behind you and kind of create it. And so we wanted to help people turn everyday kind of conversations or maybe town halls, et cetera, into the content that they need to communicate at that level. Because as the product, as the production quality went down, the number of content pieces that you had to produce went up. And we saw most marketing teams were not set up to produce this much content. And if they were, it was central from the company, not from the individuals at the company. But they still have their goals. They still have particular audiences in mind.
Right. And I think some people are misled by that, because I think why people do so much quantity is because they're trying to get this lucky viral video to happen, but they don't really need that if they're actually creating the right content for the right people, right? You probably don't need to do 15 posts a day if you can target and get to that one post that matters to the right person.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think it comes back to what business are you in. So I've been doing B2B software for probably 2 decades now, and it just operates so different than a consumer software. And I'd argue that it doesn't seek virality at all. It seeks a consistency and trust building. So you're kind of going back to influencer versus a business model. We look at an influencer as somebody who gets paid for content. So
Mhm.
your job is to create as many eyeballs, get as much attention as possible. A business doesn't get paid for content. A business gets paid for whatever it provides. So content is just a way to build trust. So it's not about attention, it's about trust, and it's about trust with a particular audience. If you are selling an investment banking product where you're doing M&A deals, having 20 million 17-year-olds all over the country watching your video does not help. What helps is the 50 CEOs in the particular market that you're doing deals in to believe that you are the right trusted partner. And um, one of the things that a mentor of mine on the sales side said is LinkedIn is like a conference that happens every day.
Mm.
And so you now have an opportunity to speak at a conference that happens every day. What are you going to say? And so we wanted to build tools that help that happen.
That's really interesting. And the tools that you're building, and I've seen some of them. I think it's really interesting because it does add that kind of targeting element. And I think that's where a lot of times I think when people are just building content, they're probably not asking themselves the right questions of like, why am I building this? What should I build? Who am I building this for? And there's probably no tracking of it in a really good way, I would guess as well. So tell us a little bit more like how you're thinking about the product and where you want the product to go and why that you think kind of meets the market where it's at.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things that we saw as we were building out the platform that just kept coming up. And we noticed that there was no effective way in any other platforms to prosecute that request. So, first, it was people had different audiences on different platforms, and they wanted to speak to them in a very particular way. And so we started to build out the concept of audiences where it would inform the LLM what kind of content to look for. Right. So if you think about how Arbor works at the highest level, uh, we our goal is like to manufacture magic. And how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we do is we find the magic moments. And once we find the magic moments, then we package the magic moments. And we can package those magic moments either into clips for any of your social networks, it could be a video for your website, or it could be text, it could be an article, right? But the question is not what it is, but who is it for? And that part never came in. So if I am doing a clip for my target customer, I may have 3 or 4 different customers. Which one is this for? Maybe I'm actually doing a clip for my employees. And if my system isn't aware of who I am building content for, I'm holding a lot of that stuff in my head. And now I have an hour long talk and I have to filter this stuff out. I'm still reading that transcript. Um, the other thing is goals. What am I trying to do with this? What kind of progress am I looking to make with that individual? So what we do is we use those artifacts to rank and score the different kinds of content that we create and direct the system to help you find it. And then finally, the thing that's really unique is businesses have a lot of leaders internally that speak for the business. And influencers, they are the business, right? So
Right.
to them, it's like they're going to create their video.
They're
A
the product.
business, they are the product. Yeah. So a
Yeah.
business is going to have their CEO, maybe their head of product, maybe their head of marketing, their head of people, and they will all speak in a different way. And you don't want to just wash out the unique qualities of that individual. So when we were building this comms platform for businesses, it was really important to acknowledge that within a given video, there will be people that are individuals in how they communicate. We wanted to capture that and track that through any video. And so, kind of, that's the Venn diagram. You take goals, you take audiences, and you take people, and you create authentic content at scale using that.
Awesome. Awesome. What is going on behind you?
Hold on for a second.
Did I hear a drum set?
Yeah, so this is funny.
We'll cut it. We can cut it out. It's not like we'll just edit it. I was just curious.
I do have a drum set, and my cleaning person was over like cleaning around it. I'm like, this is like not the time to move the hi hat.
I thought that's what I heard. I was like, hey, I got instruments hanging on the wall in here. I got guitars all over the place in here. Nobody's playing them right now.
2, 3. I have 3 guitars around me.
Do you really?
Yeah.
What instruments do you play?
I play. I'm primarily a guitar player, so I've been playing since I was 12. So I wouldn't say I'm good at any. And I can play the bass. I'm not a bass player. I can play the piano. I'm not a piano player. And I it's a stretch to say that I can play the drums. I want to play the drums. I would like to. I try to. But yeah, my hobby is a singer-songwriter. So I've been playing in bands since I was 13, and I wound up turning that into a theater writing hobby. And so now I'm writing a show for Broadway. So we're actually like casting right now. I'm getting emails about which actors are going to be a part of this round. So
amazing. Your story right there, from playing guitar to 12 to playing in bands and all that, is very similar to mine. I'm like, man, we have so much in common. I am not writing a Broadway musical though. I am like,
not yet.
Incredible. Not yet.
Not yet.
No, believe me. I would explain how I play guitar too, similar to you. But I have, once you got to like, I'm like writing a Broadway musical, that is very different to where I was thinking we were on the same level. So I do love playing guitar. I played since I was 12 as well. Played in a bunch of bands. Wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I can't sing very well. The rest of my family can. So I married a singer. So I found
nice.
I found a way to get to that.
Love that.
But I do have a question for you.
Okay.
We're not going to cut this out of the episode because that was really fun. I think in terms of guitar, because I learned guitar, and my wife grew up playing piano first, like her first kind of bass instrument. She thinks of everything from a piano perspective, and so we always have these music theory conversations that takes us about an hour to get to. Oh, we're saying the same thing. It's just we see it through two different instruments.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. I don't know how people are as effective on piano as they are on guitar, because as a guitar player, like if I want to change keys, I just move up
or move down.
And we're done. And a piano player, you have to do so much work.
Right. That's my argument. It's like, why did they put your instrument in one key? And then you have to change everything when you're thinking about the different modes or scales or whatever. And guitar, it's, I guess, I don't know if the right word, it's linear, right? Like, and
that's
like
piano players, you're like, why? I don't even think about it when I ask people to change keys, and then I'm like, oh wait, I gotta give the piano player like a second to process. Fair.
So I wanted to back up to this anyways, because I already knew this about you, and I was going to get to this anyways. But I think it's really interesting, your backstory and the connection and interplay to the whole idea of building a narrative. Because I think in your business itself, what you're helping people do with this content, leveraging technology, is storytelling and narrative, and what you're doing for fun, which is an incredible thing that you're doing. It's bigger than most people's little side projects, is that you're writing music for, a narrative and storytelling. Tell me a little bit about that, and like how this is kind of maybe an interplay within how you work and think.
Yeah, I had always kept my two worlds of creative and technology very, very separate. I spent a long time working in finance, about a decade, and while my finance life funded my creative life, there just wasn't really an overlap, and so it always felt like I had these two lives. One, I'm getting putting on my dress shirts and going to build trading systems, and then I'm going downtown and I'm you know going to playing at Lower East Side bars and hanging out with musicians. So it was always pretty fun to just see those two worlds combine. But I was, or actually to see those two worlds not combine, so
Right.
it's fun now to see those two worlds combine. So I always wondered, is there a way to find the intersection of those two things? And so um, after finance, started a company in the travel space. We built it out to be pretty large and serving 2,500 hotels globally. The top uh, Forbes hotels were using our platform to deliver services, housekeeping, maintenance, delivering your food, etc., concierge. And it was a very human thing to solve, but it still was not necessarily in the creative bend. So we sold
Mm.
that company first to Expedia, then a private equity company in the 22. And I was just curious, can I find something that actually like brings all of this together? Um, and the to the side, like while I'm doing this business, I'm working on this show, and the show is on for like 2 3 weeks and then off for 4 or 5 months. So I joke like some people train for marathons, and my marathon is getting in a room with professional actors every 6 to 12 months and seeing if we could change people's lives through narrative. And so it's been like super interesting. I got to work with some incredible people that taught me a lot about storytelling. That the the person that connected me and my co-writer wrote Motown the Musical with Berry Gordy, and that producer, he was behind Rent and Avenue Q, and then found them and Miranda. So like being able to be in a room with these people and having them critique your stuff, it just teaches you a lot of things.
Right.
Um, I mean, and it applies not only to to the now, but it applied to it changed how I communicate as a leader. So there was always interplay; it just wasn't direct. Like I remember this one moment when we presented the script that we were really proud of, and it had all these intricate motions in what was happening between the characters, and the producer read it and he was just pissed. So I remember like he slammed the script on the table and he's like, "There's too much damn plot." It's like no one cares about plot. People only care about stakes.
Mm.
And it's such a deep concept, right? It's like it's not about building that Rube Goldberg machine where like the marble falls on the thing and it spins and the cards and the dominoes. It's about why is this whole thing important anyway? And that actually played through in the business communication that I have
Right.
in terms of communicating before how we do something, why we do it at all.
That's
And
the question, right? It's the why. Is that
it's
right?
all, yeah, yeah. It's the why. It's like, what's at stake? Why are we doing this? Like, what if we don't do this? Who cares? And when we create the system needs to know the stakes, which is, by the way, going back to that first question, why goals are so important and audiences are so important. We have
Right.
to know what's at stake in order to be able to tell the right story to the right person at the right time. So, okay, going back. So I was working on this show and I was working on this company. We sold the company, and I thought that this would be a really interesting opportunity to find where the two met. And initially, Arbor actually was a consumer focused company, and we were building a platform for family documentaries.
Mm,
So building the tech that allowed a person to get interviewed and tell their own personal stories. And on the process of doing that, we started work with nonprofits, and we helped their beneficiaries tell stories of the impact that was made. And there, like, the stakes were really high because nonprofits come in to help people that no one else will help. Right?
right.
They're people that the system is necessarily to set up to help. So these are folks in big need, and you see these lives transform of people in marginalized populations, um, people coming from all sorts of backgrounds, and
Mm,
it was just so inspiring to see the stakes be so high and storytelling be so important. And what I learned in the process of working with nonprofits is that storytelling is what moves us into action, not facts, not not even logical arguments. The way we make decisions is based on emotions, and the only thing that affects our emotions is story. A story could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could be a book. Like, a story doesn't have a given length, but
right.
what is a story? It is an individual. They are in some sort of a context. There is a goal that they have. There is something at stake, and there's something in the way. And I could say that in a sentence. But when I have these five elements, I am now engaged and I am
Walk me
listening.
through it one more time. Walk me through it one more time. And I want
Right.
to
So
capture this.
there's
What are
an
the five?
individual,
Yep.
they're in some setting, they have a goal, there is something um, at stake, and there's something in the way of them getting that goal.
Mm,
Because it's a really boring story if you don't have anything in the way.
right.
So,
Is that the hero? Is that similar to like the hero's journey?
so the hero's journey is a way that we walk the path of that, right?
Okay.
So if you were to have like the one liner of why the hero's journeys exist, then it would be it would be what I just said.
Right.
But so so you could think about what I just said as like the destination on the map, and the hero's journey is the path that you take
Okay.
through the GPS of
Yep.
conflict.
Yep.
And every step in the story is something where you're attempting to get closer to your goal. You're reminded of the stakes, but you're fighting against whatever's in the way.
Right.
And so that's a great business story. That's a great startup pitch story. That's a great product
You knew where
story.
I was going with this. Is that how your investor story?
It's a
Uh,
great investor story.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you leverage that?
I mean,
Pulling out those elements?
I think at this point I'm doing it. It's so subconscious
Right.
that I'm not thinking about it explicitly.
Hmm.
But I used to have a coworker that worked in Bridgewater for 4 years, and his favorite question was, "So what? So what?" It was like this incredible, you just knew that that like if he had one phrase that could be tattooed, and it was so helpful because whenever you'd interact with him, you'd be like, I really got to know what's at stake. Like, why am I doing this? The
Yeah.
stakes, the why
Right.
is everything. um, but if you want to like feel that out, there's actually a really great example of that we give. Like, so I teach this at the Startup Leadership Program. How do you tell a good story? So say, I'm going to tell you a really boring story. We're going to make it a great story in about 3 minutes. So I'll tell you a story, and you'll tell me out of 10 how interested you are, and then we're going to change the variables and see how it changes. So I want to tell you about a person who wants candy. Give me out of 10.
2.
2. I want to tell you about a 73-year-old grandma named May who wants candy.
4.
So I've gotten you more interested simply by naming and describing the person.
Right.
right? So once I know a little bit more about the person, that's more interesting. I want to tell you a story about a 73-year-old grandma named May in rural Kansas who wants candy.
You just keep on moving it up the scale here.
All right,
Six.
so all right, six. Now, if I said I'm gonna tell you a person about a 70-year-old grandma in the middle of New York City who wants candy, your number might go lower, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's easy to get candy in New York. Maybe rural Kansas, I don't know. Where
Yeah.
like so the obstacles are implicit in your context,
Well, that's unknown
right?
too. Like I can picture
Yeah,
what the New York one looks like, and can't like
it's
tell me a
more
little bit
interesting,
more. Yeah, yeah,
right? So we got a grandma in what do you say, Arkansas? 70-year-old grandma named
Kansas or
May
something. I don't. Yeah, yeah.
in the middle of Kansas who wants candy. We still don't know why. Um, because she promised her 40-year-old estranged daughter that she would get her this candy that they used to eat when they were young, and she hasn't seen her in 2 decades.
Okay.
Ooh,
Now you're pulling on the emotion and the
now,
heartstrings.
there's something there.
It's going up. Now we're at an eight.
Well, now we're at an 8. And by the way, it is 1 o'clock in the morning, and Grandma May forgot, and she's coming at 8 a.m. And she said, Mom, don't forget this. Now we got a story. What's going to happen? How's she going to solve it? I can make it even higher, right? So change the context a little bit. 70-year-old Grandma May in Kansas who wants candy. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and she just ran out of insulin. It's the only sugar that she has, or she dies.
Raise the stakes.
Yeah, the stakes are different, right? Life and death.
Yep.
So when you think about that, I mean, that's how your product should be pitched, right? I just gave it to you in a sentence. That
Right.
sentence could be the hero's journey. Now we're going to see, well, what does May do? Does she call somebody? Does she go walking the streets? Can she drive? Like, and then on the way to the drive, then maybe her car breaks down and she needs to have a stranger help. So a story is just these series of events where somebody's trying to get to some goal. And
Right.
that is exactly how products are sold. It's exactly how an investor pitch is made. And what's interesting is if you don't have a great obstacle, then you don't have a great story, which means you may not have a great product. So that's why great product
Right.
developers always seek obstacles to solve.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You know a little bit about peak. We talked about a little bit, but there's focal points in which I help teams kind of get clarity, and really what we're doing is building the narrative, right? Like the mission statement is the why. It's our cause, purpose, or belief, the reason that we're going there. And I like to use that as like the North Star analogy, right? That North Star is our mission statement. It's our why. It's why we wake up every morning. And then we have these mountains in front of us. And I like to talk about, this ridge line, the third mountain. Now it's like our 3-year vision. We want to be there. It's cloudy. We kind of have an idea what it is, but we try to define what that is. And then we work our way up back to the 1 year, which is the mountain that's in front of us. And we're looking at the peak and we're defining what success looks like at that peak. And then we navigate these milestones quarter by quarter using OKRs and KPIs and things that we do. But we're defining these focal points. But what we're really doing in the way I'm picturing this narrative as you laid it out now is that we're defining the why. We're defining what we need to do, that journey. And then we're also defining our roles, our responsibilities, who's doing what's it look like, how are we actually going to do it, who's going to do it. And it's all those things. And then what we do is it's every 90 days we get together with the leadership team. Every week the leadership team gets together. And that's really where the iteration and pivoting and changes are occurring because of all these different things that kind of get in our way of things that we wanted to do and trying to find our way in our path. But
Love
it's
that.
looking at it different.
Yeah.
It's like we're defining our narrative together as a team
Yeah.
and
Well,
then trying to stay on the path together.
you're building the story as you're living it, right? And
Right.
I would have maybe one modification. I don't know where it fits into and we could maybe work it out together. I would say the 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 vision of where we want to get to, that's like that third thing. It's the goal. It's like what do I want?
Right.
the stakes are what happens if we don't do this?
Right.
What if we don't get the vision?
Yeah. Right. No, right.
What happens to the team and what happens to the customers that we want to serve if this does not happen?
Yeah. All the stakeholders, what happens to the investors?
Yeah,
What happens to our
that's
team,
right.
right? Like our
That's right.
partners and even our employees and family members. And I think
Right.
that's, and
And
every team that, everything that you're doing, everything that I work with are doing things that have never been done before. There is no blueprint for this journey, right? There is no blueprint. So the stakes are high. The stakes are high.
yeah, and I think there's a certain kind of person that's attracted to that. Um, I remember seeing interesting uh, an interesting talk about the thing versus the way. So you could
Yeah.
do the right thing and the wrong thing, and the right way and the wrong way. And I recognized most jobs that I had before I did anything on the entrepreneurial side was really figuring out a better way to do something, but never really questioned the thing that I was doing. Like when I was working in financial services, there was a trading system. There were many other trading systems. I needed to build one that was better. But the thing that I was doing was not in question. It was the way that I was doing it. When you're in a startup space, you're creating something that doesn't exist yet. And so your primary question is, does this matter? And once you figure out if it matters, then you do it well.
Right.
And if you don't remember that, then you could actually start to do well a thing that should have never been done at all.
Right. So defining the thing, and then you can define the way.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Make sure make sure you're doing the right thing first. And once you're doing the right thing, then figure out the right way to do it. So when you're doing the right thing initially, it's totally unscalable. It very much has many things that are not systematized and dirty and off, and the processes are all weird. And everyone's just barely trying to figure out how to hold it together, but it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And there's something at stake for your customers that if you get it right, their life improves.
Yeah.
And that's when you know, like, you got it. All right, let's double down. Now let's figure out a better way to do this. And I've been on teams and I've led efforts where we didn't spend enough time thinking about whether this thing was the right thing to do. We just would start to improve processes and systematize. And it really was like, it was an empty effort. It was an empty pursuit because the
Interesting.
thing itself was not worth doing.
One of my philosophies is there is a process to get to the thing. And I strongly believe in this. I believe that from day one as a founder, we have a hypothesis, probably not clear, and we start working on it. We start testing things and start thinking through things and start putting the word out about our hypothesis. And then we start to collect people that want to start working on this hypothesis and we start to defining it. I believe all business is the scientific method done right. And so from the very beginning, I think thinking of from a process perspective is we're trying to figure out what simply works and what doesn't work. And the more things that we figure out that work, we continue to do those things. And those things lead us down a path and stop us from doing the things that don't work. And just even, I think your story with Arbor is interesting, where you first started with a hypothesis and learned. And as you pivoted, macro pivoted, it's through what you continue to learn and taking those learning loops back into the organization and keep you moving forward. Part of the reason why, one, couple theories, collective genius, the name of what we created this company, is really working together. But our logo is interesting because it's chevrons, which is a greater sign together. And it's always about like action forward and always moving forward and making decisions and learning from the past and then making, moving forward. And
Love that.
I think it is, I love science. I also love art and craft. It's all of these things, but there is really there is a process from day one. Now, once you start to systematize and create processes of teams, I think that really happens after you have about 20 employees. And because the founder can be, I think the founder can be the system up to about 20 employees. But now once we're a team system, We need to really like find a better way to collaborate, learning loops, and then define those focal points that I talked about kind of earlier. But I do
100%.
believe it's a system. I think it is a system, and I think
I agree.
yeah, and I think some
Yeah.
people kind of are like, no, it's
Well,
chaos in the beginning. It can be.
so, so
It can feel like chaos.
it's chaos that you control systematically. I would say it is chaos, but a system reduces the chaos to something that we can understand. Fun fact, total aside, my it, I like a strategic advisory consultancy that's called Collective Catalyst.
Oh
So
yeah,
I didn't know that's really funny, but I'm with you. I think it's really about that conversation. So um, I think the idea of the scientific method for discovery and for startups is both perfect and dangerous to talk about. It's perfect because I actually think that this idea of holding a hypothesis and being as willing to prove it wrong or right, and actually great scientists try to prove it wrong. And if they can't, then they're like, okay, then there's something here. Where I think it's dangerous is the job of a scientist is not to produce something for industry. It is to unlock a new idea. And if you simply pursue solving a problem that has not been solved, you run the risk of solving a problem that no one cares for you to solve. And so you've solved it, right? It works, but it doesn't make an impact on anyone. And so the hard part, and I've seen so many great founders do a thing that's really, really hard, and it just doesn't matter to people. Right? The Segway
right.
is such a great example. Like the Segway was a hard thing to do. It was really
Yeah,
hard to figure out the was it the with the gyro things, the like how do you
yeah,
stand where and not falling,
right,
but it itself was not really helping anyone do anything particular. So I'm a big proponent of the jobs to be done theory, which is we don't buy products, we hire products to do jobs for us. And so if you apply the scientific method to that, then it's really powerful because somebody is looking for you because they're already doing this thing.
yeah,
And it's so easy to get caught up in a product you fall in love with and not listen to the product that you should be building. So, like for instance, with Arbor, the first iteration of this was we were we created a scaled production studio effectively. So we were speaking to organizations, learning about their goals and audiences, figuring out what kind of content they wanted to create, and then interviewing them like this, and then taking the conversation and turning it into videos that they would use to meet those goals.
right,
And as we were out there selling the product, we would get to the part that we said, okay, great. And once we have your video, this is what we will do with it. We're going to turn it into a bunch of clips. We hit a button, and within seconds, all these clips started to pop up. We're going to extract the quotes, hit a button, quotes came up. We're going to write your articles, hit another button, a blog article was written. And people are like, wait, what is that? It's like, well, it's a tool we built internally to deliver all this stuff for you. And they'd say, well, can we use the tool? It's like, no, it's our tool. Like, you have to buy our service and then
yeah,
you get the tool. And I want to say for like almost a year, because from the beginning, when we started selling this, some of the people on the team were like, we should just sell the tool, man. I was like, no, we're not going to sell the tool. We're going to sell the storytelling service
right.
because we know how to use the tool really well. And we were building the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it
And
goes back to too. It's like I think all those focal points are important that I kind of talk about, but Simon Sinek talks about this. Start with why, the litmus test, I think he calls it. But always asking yourself the question, going back to your cause, purpose, or belief, right? That help keep on guiding you because you can get very lost. And I used an analogy like climbing hills and peaks, and you can get very
mhm,
lost.
Oh
even
yeah.
if your team stays together. Most teams, when I first start working with them, they realize very quickly they're going 15 different directions. We solve some capital efficiency really quick by having these conversations about these focal points.
Love
But
that.
you can get really lost very easily, and if you're not continually kind of being guided by where you want to go, what you want to do, how you're going to do
Oh,
it, who's going to do it, right? And so I think, yeah, I
100%.
think I love the idea of that going back to the narrative and the why. I think it's so important to keep on
Yeah.
asking yourself that, especially when you're making important decisions.
Ideally, the best products, your why and your customer's why are fully aligned. Like our why was authentic storytelling at scale. Like that's the stated mission of the company. And what our customers wanted was to scale authentic storytelling also. But the how we were disagreeing on. We wanted to
Correct.
do it by interviewing people, but they wanted to do it themselves. They just did not have the tools because the tools were built for influencers, not for businesses. And when they
Yep.
saw our tool, they're like, that, can we use that? And so the pivot into software actually came from an alignment of why.
Hmm.
What we recognize is if what we want to do is to help scale authentic storytelling for businesses, then this does a better job at it
Yeah.
because now we are empowering everybody to have this tool in their own hands. So they'll still get to the why and they'll be able to do it independently of us,
Yep.
which means a lot more people get impacted. I think it's kind of a trap sometimes where you know your why, but you're so committed to the how and you start to optimize the how and push the how and convince people of the how.
But it is all part of the process, and eventually the process will see its way out. I mean, it's like having a bad lone wolf employee in your team. Like, eventually will find its way to
So
solving that. It can be painful part of the way, but it is
I
part of
love
the part of the narrative in the process.
I love look I love your optimism, and I think uh, it is. I am a consummate optimist, uh, but we have to acknowledge that if for every drama there's also tragedies, right? And tragedy is a form of storytelling. It is a form of storytelling that does not end well. It ends poorly, and it is meant to be a lesson of what you should not do,
True.
rather than an experience. Like the hero's journey is not a tragedy. The hero's journey ends on the up. So it's a positive. You go through all these trials, and at the end you emerge, the achieving your why and hitting the stakes. But you
Right.
don't have to. And the thing about startups is that was like the stats are like 19 out of 20 fail, and
Right.
so the thing to really keep in mind is you have to be very vigilant that
Hmm.
you don't get too stuck on the how and
Right.
you're always thinking about the why and you're always making sure that it is aligned with the people who you are serving and you're
Yep.
listening and you're changing because the world changes too, right? As
Yep.
generative AI gets into everyone's world, the way that they think, the way that they do their jobs changes. So the same products 3 years ago may not be what's necessary now. Everything
Yeah.
is moving all the time.
Right.
And so it's so important to pay attention. And I've found that not everyone pays attention. And sometimes people don't pay attention fast enough and they lose money and then
Hmm.
they shut down. And so like as a second time founder, I would say that is the one superpower you do develop is figuring out when something is not working
Right.
the way that it needs because you have seen something work and now you can
You get stuck.
critically.
Yeah. You get narrow minded. It's funny. I was in a session just 2 weeks ago with the team, and they're at kind of a bypass, and the team was talking. And I think this goes to like always have diverse teams, a collective mind of different people in the room. And I looked over and I said, Timothy, you haven't said anything, but you look like you want to say something. And pause, most quiet person in the room. And he started to talk and explain a different perspective that nobody else had. And it just totally changed the room. It changed the perspective. It changed the direction. And I find that one way to really help is have different people in the room, different people on your team, and different perspectives, and always questioning, even question the why. I mean, I have teams annually, we
Mm,
look at the mission and we say, is this the right mission still? Is there something that
mm,
needs to be changed? Right? We recast that 3 year vision every year. We don't stay with that, right? Like recast that 1 year plan. But we have to look at those. And I think you're right. You have to question those things. And if you're not questioning
yes.
those things, you can get very stuck and go down rabbit holes and blinded by the how, which is always strategy. I always think how is strategy. Like the strategy might need to change. We have to open our mind back up and relook at this.
The best people in a company that hold a true reflection on whether your why is being met is customer success and support, because they're dealing with the real. Sales, a little bit, because they are speaking to folks who want to achieve something and are willing to put down money in order to achieve it. So there's like a little bit of misalignment there, because when the rubber meets the road, that's when it actually happens. It's, sales great perspective on where things are now and where things should be headed, but customer success will tell you, are you doing it? Are the detailed decisions that you made, are the how decisions being made actually turning into the outcomes that you hoped for? And an important part of running a great company is learning how to listen, not to just your product vision, but to understand what future are people talking about when they speak to your sales team, and what reality are people holding when they interact with your product. And then really being objective and willing to change directions and willing to be completely wrong with something that you were hyper passionate about, and acknowledging that that's all a part of the process, because if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But
Right.
sometimes you have to do something to discover that it was the wrong thing to do.
Right. Yeah, you definitely need all those inputs and synthesize them. A lot of teams make a lot of decisions without any sort of data or information. And sometimes when they're at a bypass, I find many teams err in the fact that this bypass, where they're stuck, they'll just argue it every week versus go and ask one really important question, which is, what information do we need to make this decision? And go out and get that information, right? Like, I think that's one thing that a lot of teams fail at. There's always a path forward, and I think sometimes that path is simply we're on the trail and we had left, right, or over this ravine to figure out some information, have the scouts come back, and now let's make a move.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. I have two questions that I have to ask you before we're done, and I know that
Okay.
it's going long on time. The first one is,
Let's go.
you said Steve Jobs hurt product management.
Yeah. Look, I am an Apple fanboy. I'm talking to you on a Mac, an Apple Watch. I'm about to buy that new iPhone. That this one's a bit dated. I One of the most brilliant product minds of our time. That said, he was somebody that did not care what other people thought when making products. And especially when the Jobs book came out, I remember so many people reading it and embodying Steve Jobs. And number one, there's a consumer product, not B2B. So I think those things function differently. Number two is a Steve Jobs, right? So if I like playing basketball and I'm just going to do exactly what Michael Jordan does, it may just not work for me as well as it does for Michael Jordan. And so aligning your decision making process to the way that arguably the top product mind of our generation did it turns people into very stubborn and kind of disinterested product leaders, where the whole view becomes I see something in my head and your job is to do it. And I found, at least on the B2B side, that the more impactful way of building is to listen, just to listen as much as possible. And your goal is not even to come up with the idea. Your goal is to listen to the problems people have, to the obstacles in their way, to what's at stake, and then build something that helps them get to the other side. Right? If we go back to that story format, a great story is one where you get past the obstacle, and a great product is the thing that gets you on the other side. And people that were in the church of Steve Jobs were are really they're really hard of hearing when it comes to this kind of thing. And by the way, I fell into the church of Steve Jobs for a period of time as well, so I'm not impervious to this. But it turns your listening off, and it just supercharges. I see this future, and that's the only thing. And objectively, I think that doesn't serve your team, it doesn't serve your product, and certainly doesn't serve the customer who's trying to tell you, I have this problem. If you can solve it for me, it would be really great. And
Right.
that's kind of my big philosophy is users are unhappy all the time, everywhere, on every product, always unhappy. We can be happy for I think we as people can only be happy for a week, right? We all have, we'll be
Wait a
happy for
second.
a
Wait a
week.
second. Wait a second. You're on the East Coast though. I'm on the West Coast. We're always happy over here. You guys are so upset over there. I don't know why you guys are so upset.
Yeah, I just we can only be happy with a product for a very short period of time. Then we start to see all the problems, right?
Of course.
I remember somebody at the OpenAI world was saying it's the broken English of a dog conundrum, where your dog comes over to you and it's like, hey, uh, uh, dog need bone. You're like, did my dog just say words? This is amazing. And so for the first week, you're like, oh my God, my dog can speak. And then a week later, you're like, dog need bone. You're like, can't you just speak proper English? We've forgotten that dogs could not speak. And I think that happens with products. We get a product and it solves all these problems. And eventually we integrate that into our world and we need new things. So I think for the right product developer, there's an
Humans are never
opportunity.
satisfied.
Never satisfied. We get used to things. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a year. But that's why product management is so fun and so interesting, because it's a consistent conversation. And kind of going back to the Steve Jobs thing, if you're not just, stubbornly saying, I'm just going to build this thing, but you're going to be in conversation with your customers, you build something that you think that they need, you put it out there, you see how they use it, and then they start to do this other thing. So many of our best features were completely they were not on our roadmap, and they came because we saw how people were looking to use the product, and then we came back to them, and that the innovation was, would this help? They didn't necessarily know what they needed, but they knew how they wanted to use it, and we would come back and
Right.
we would build it. But it wasn't from day one, I'm going to tell you exactly how it's going to go.
That's great. All right. Here's your final question.
Okay, let's go.
Are you ready? This is one of the most important questions you've ever been asked. So I'm glad you're sitting down and prepared for this.
Let's go.
It's less of a question than a scenario. And here's the scenario. Dmitry, you are trapped on a desert island the rest of your life. Now you have food, you have water. It's a beautiful island. You have everything you need, but you are trapped there for the rest of your life. But there's one thing that you don't have. There's one thing on this island that you don't have. And that is entertainment. There's no entertainment on the island. But luckily for you, an old 80s boombox drifts ashore with unlimited batteries, but you can only bring one album to listen to the rest of your life. What are you going to bring?
I mean, I think it would be Dark Side of the Moon. It's a very broad album. yeah, like I got into Pink Floyd later in my life, but just such a there's so much depth to that album,
Right.
and
So Dark Side of the Moon, you think's your final answer on this?
especially if a TV also drifted and I could watch The Wizard of Oz.
Nope, nope.
Did-
Nope, no TV for you. No.
you know,
Nice try.
I
You try
think
to
I
sneak a
think
TV and then a little Netflix. If I had a little Netflix, nice try.
no,
Nice try. No.
you know, it is something. It's my wife and I share a love for that album, and you can just kind of be out there. It has an atmospheric element to it.
Yeah.
Um, it's got a grandiosity, and then occasional moments of incredible lyricism,
Oh yeah.
great
All their
guitars. I mean,
albums are so deep, so you could listen to them over and over again and still find things. I think that's what's so interesting about Pink Floyd.
yeah, and like the other week I was listening to one of their songs, like, oh, I don't think I ever interpreted it that way before. So yeah, I think great art serves as a consummate mirror, and it changes because you change, and every time you interact with it, it gives you a new perspective. That could be a book, it could be a song, but if I had to choose one, it would be The Dark Side of the Moon.
Awesome. By the way, let me ask, did I hit all five elements of the narrative on that?
Me, so that's my character. Then contact, yeah, I'm on desert island.
Right.
Um, there, there's I want some entertainment, um, and uh, there's nothing available to me, and the only thing that uh, stands in the way is I have to make this choice, and choice made.
We did
I'll
it.
see. I'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me on the show. Love this. This is a great talk. I appreciate you.